Good evening and welcome to the Great British Hangout. We're here this evening with a number of esteemed Brit-Packers, Martin Shervington, David Amerland, Amy Harrison and James Dearsley, and Kath, Dawson, my co-host this evening. So we're going to do some short introductions. I'm just going to pass you around the group just to say hello, and then we're going to get cracking on talking about looking back to the future and looking back at 2014 and looking forward to what we might be predicting to see in 2015. So Martin, just over to you first of all.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Martin.
Yes, hello. So what we're doing? We're doing Google Plus. What's been happening on Google Plus first? Is that where we're going?
Yep.
So we've just been talking off air, and it's been a big year, but lots of small things have added up to where we are now. And I think one of the big events was Wittgen doctrine leaving. And I think that was a little mini earthquake for people. And there were events that then happened after. And there were articles that came out. Myself and David were sort of quietly sort of vocal on how we saw it, where people are like, oh, Google Plus is all going to shut down now and it's all good. So, and it's like, it's Google. It's kind of gone throughout. It's kind of connected everything now, and we've got the integration with the YouTube comments, and we can see it in Drive, we can see it in Gmail, and we can see it in Inbox, and we can plus mention people there, and it's well on the way to being established. And the updates that happened today, I mean, the updates that happened last week was our pinnable posts, and then today we had a change on the way that that you click through on to an original post that's been shared via the comments, and so you start to have this engagement metric that brings your eye in as to where is the party happening. And things like this, it means it's changing. Google know what they're doing. They want deeper relationships. They want communities to be building around content, and they want us to be engaging on that content and finding it in personalized search and building ourselves, our personal brands, our businesses within Google+. And I think that that's something which a lot of people, after Wittgen doctrine left, people are like, almost the naysayers were like almost hoping that it's going to stop. But it's like, it's Google. This is integral to Google's growth and development. So I think as we get to the end of the year, we can see how well established it is. And I'm noticing a lot more people that are feeling secure that Google Plus has got a very positive future, which might well lead on. Do I go on to the future bit now as well, Peter?
Yeah, you can do. I mean, just a little bit of question about that, yeah. Martin, because you say about the security aspect. I was just listening yesterday to a Hangout with Ray Hiltz, and they were doing social media predictions for 2015. And Ray's very definite prediction was that Google Plus would be dismantled in 2015.
Did he? He went for that, did he?
He did.
Ray Hiltz. I like Ray. We have to listen to the context of that. Okay, shall we go for so let's go for the future bit, and then you can always ask for other questions. But a few people have asked me, could you predict what's going to happen next with Google Plus? And the thing is, even if I knew anything, which I don't, I wouldn't be able to say anything because I'm on an NDA. Which is what happens when you become a rising star in the community. So it means I can't, if I knew it, I couldn't say anything, which I've done. So that's that. It means that what I'm left with is just making stuff up, basically. So I'll just make stuff up and say, yeah, next year is going to be the year of, and I don't know what to say. And one article is going to come out, and I said, well, actually, what I think, and it's what we're doing more than anything, which is, I think local, and I think reviews, and I think the bridge between online and offline is going to become stronger. And I do think that the ecosystem that reaches out into the real world, I don't think it's really been pushed yet. But this is very self-serving because of what we're doing with Plus Your Business. So my prediction, I'm there thinking, this box would be useful if there was anything in it and I could open it, but this box is pretty much my view that serves Plus Your Business. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, is local next year, reviews, people building their networks on Google Plus so that they can reach the local people, so they can find the people that are most engaged and leaving the reviews in the local areas. That's where I think it's going to go more and more.
one of the things that Ray said in the Hangout in terms of Google and not being very good at was the marketing element. And he felt, or the group felt actually, that Google should get a group of marketers to actually market Google Plus better. Is that ever likely to happen? Google never seem to, basically expect their fans to be their marketers, don't they?
I think that, I mean, I've heard that question before. Is it likely to happen? I think that I can't comment on. I can give my perspective. I think that sometimes the communication about the benefits of Google Plus. Do you know what though? I've reached the point with it. It's whatever happens, happens. We do what we do. We take advantage of any gaps. I mean, myself and David will be there going, well, we just write it up and tell people, and we'll communicate it because we can see it. And it's almost not worrying about what Google does with the communication. We've got an opportunity to pick things up and tell that story. And I think that's the great thing, is almost like they'll do what they do. And if they ever want conversations, and with us lot, then they'll approach us, and we'll have those conversations, and we'll do what we do there. But it's a heck of a big organisation that's growing. Was it 50,000 members of staff now, employees? That's huge. In what, 15 years? It's growing like crazy. So there's certain things that they may not be as focused on that we would like them to be focused on, but it's pretty good. And I do think that the opportunity here, I think that's why so many of us have spent so much time here, there's still a really good opportunity for coming. There's people now that are building their personal brands and building their businesses that are just starting now, and I'm seeing them fly because they're able to access the information they need quicker. So the learning curve is quickened for them, shortened, lessened, steepened, I don't know, you know where I'm going. But it's not as much, let's go for that. So that they're able to do it. So people joining now is good. So I don't think we have to worry. I mean, I see it on threads where it's like, well, why don't Google do it? It's like they're going to do what they want. Send feedback, and if you speak to somebody, you can give them feedback. But let's worry about what's in our control.
Thanks, Martin. You other guys, Amy, David, James, Kath, any thoughts on where Google's come from and where it's going? You're probably all going to tell me all on NDAs now.
Well, I think we're constantly trying to second guess how Google Plus is going to evolve and develop, and at the end of the day, there's not a lot of value in doing that because we're only wasting time and energy. Really, what you need to do is just get in there and use it, and if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, you can make your choices. But it's not going to go away in any kind of traditional sense of the word because it's embedded within every semantic technology that Google is actually implementing, not just search, but a lot of the apps that it's bringing out and a lot of the other services which are sort of linked to the back of that. Case in point, Inbox, for instance, which flies off Gmail, which also uses signals from the networks of Google+. So from a Google perspective, it is a great testing ground. It is the first time they have actually owned part of the social web, and they're finding it incredibly valuable. And if we recall what happened before Google Plus came along, they had the Facebook shut its doors to them, and Twitter pretty much blackmailed them, and a deal sort of got broken off, which led to this stage here. And Google always is very keen not to repeat mistakes. And this is one of the points that Eric Smith made in a book about how Google works, is that essentially they are not going to be held hostage by any other social network ever again. So it's not something which is going to go away.
Great, thank you, David. One of the things that we talk a lot about Google Plus in terms of brands getting more onto Google Plus. And I mean, I don't know about you, I certainly seem to see more brands entering on Google Plus. Is that likely to be a trend that we're going to see continuing?
Well, it definitely is. I mean, let's not forget what happened when Google Plus first opened up. Brands came in because it's a new social network. They knew it was linked to Google, so they intuitively felt there was value there. They tried to market here in the Facebook way. It failed, so they kept their presence here, but they weren't here except in name only. More brands will definitely come into Google+, but certainly it's a difficult nut to crack in many different ways. And I see it directly from the clients which I sort of advise. the social media teams are still struggling with the concept of how to develop a voice, how to have a real conversation which will project brand values adequately, consistently across the board, and how to establish contact with the audience which they know is there. And until there's a movement in the internal orientation of corporate services and corporate departments, we're not going to see a lot of successful outcomes yet in Google Plus for brands. Having said that, there are brands which are doing extremely well and they've cracked it. And there's some like non-profit. NASA is doing incredibly well. Cadbury's, John Lewis, they're using it exceedingly well. And they are going to be examples which others will emulate. And definitely, it's going to be a growing trend.
But why is that? It seems that brands have got all this budget to spend on putting together the best teams they can, and yet brands seem to struggle with Google Plus. Is it because Google Plus is so different from any other network?
Well, exactly. I mean, if we think before Google Plus came along, pretty much every other social network that was out there was very much another broadcast channel, by and large. Certainly there was a little bit of a conversation going on, and there were social proof metrics like numbers of followers and likes and perhaps comments, but there was nothing quite in depth as it is here, and certainly there wasn't quite the sentiment mining that goes on within Google Plus, which can make or break a brand. And within Google Plus, because of the extensive dialogue which is there, perhaps because a lot of the, it started out as personal profiles, people talking to people. When a brand comes along, if it fails to establish its identity, its brand values, its unique voice, its value to us in terms of the conversation it does, not the marketing, then it doesn't actually gain a lot of traction. Now, companies and brands are very capable of doing this, of course. I mean, they're not stupid, and they haven't got stupid people working for them. But what happens usually internally is that they're handicapped by their internal systems. Classic example is when you have the social media team, which is not connected to the PR team, which is not connected to the product management team, which is not connected to customer services. So you have all these disparate departments not really communicating internally, which makes it very difficult for a brand to consistently come out and say, hey, we stand for this with confidence. We actually believe in this, and if there's something we can actually deal with that, which is exactly what a company needs to do. So that internal shift in company makeup, essentially, is something which companies find incredibly difficult to do because it's costly from their end, and also there are personalities involved, and there are turf wars, as you would expect, and their careers on the line. So it's going to be an incremental kind of movement, which we'll see as we sort of move forward.
It sounds like small businesses is the perfect platform for you to be as a small business person.
Well, definitely. And I think, if we think that small businesses are the backbone of any country, the US and the UK classic examples, but a lot of countries across Europe are basically, rely on small businesses. They should be the ones taking great advantage of Google Plus and everything it has to offer.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Kath, just coming to you. You got some thoughts, comments coming through?
Yeah, we've got some people out here I want to say hello to, but I just want to bring up this comment from Phil Aston, who says, many of my clients are hotels, and 90% of their audience is still on Facebook and engages very well on there. I'm now seeing Hangout, video marketing, Gmail, inbox, etc., starting to move that engagement to Google Plus. So I think that kind of backs up exactly what David's been saying. And I just want to give a shout out to Kirsten Hancock, Amelia Hoskins. There's lots of mulled wine and mince pies and wind out there, in both internal and external. I'm not sure. My eyes are a bit fuzzy. I'm not quite sure who's saying that. David Danu from Essex, and Janine Marriott. So hi guys, thanks for joining us. That's all from me for now.
Thank you. Martin, over to you. Have you got a thought?
Yeah, I was just going to pick up on the point that David's making. And to me, it's Google Plus is different. The culture's different. And if a brand comes in and is focused just on their content and isn't focused on community, on building community within the cultural set that we've got, we've got to remember it started off with profiles, and then pages came along, and then pages couldn't do what profiles did. And they couldn't comment on people's posts, and then they could. And suddenly you see this thing very gently open up, and it changes the culture. People were concerned at lots of different stages about, oh, we're going to get invaded by pages. This is going back about 2 years ago. And you can see that the culture's nudged, and it's had different waves. And I think that the brand has to get in and understand where they sit within those waves, where it's at right now, based upon who they want to be interacting with. And it takes a while to understand. It's different. And I think that that's one of the challenges. I think the benefit of a small brand, it can get in and act like a person and be like a person very, very quickly, and you can understand and do a mapping exercise of what's going on. If a brand thinks that, well, we're established elsewhere, therefore we deserve to have a following and engagement on our content, then it isn't a right. You've got to earn it. You've got to go and spend your time engaging with people that want to engage with you. And they don't know it yet. That's the thing. And so that little by little, the process of being added back into circles so that people can see your content in their streams. This is the way. And you can use hashtags, sure, and you can go into communities and post content, and they're extra routes. But to build a following that guarantees to some extent that the content will flow. Or is it myself and David? Always, June, David, always, isn't it? The content.
Absolutely. I'm restraining myself from giving you the thumbs up because absolutely. Right.
But the mechanism is you have to understand what you're walking into, and it's different at different stages. It's different to a year ago. It's different to the year before, and I think that is an opportunity for small business, and it's an opportunity for step-by-step businesses getting on and not trying to do it in a year. It takes time. We've all been doing this quite a lot, and there's a lot of hours as well, and it's also the skill of the person. If you've got a social media manager, they have to learn quite a lot of things that aren't just the mechanics, and it's the nature of conversations, and when do you +1 a comment and when don't you, when you're reinforcing people's behaviors and so on. There's a tremendous amount of psychology to it.
And actually that's a point that Kirsten Hancock's brought up, just highlighting the stream from Kath, that Google Plus is time consuming. That's why brands struggle with it. Exactly what you just said, Martin. So it's I think that's it. It's and the time element also is something that puts off small business people.
Yeah.
They're already time starved as it is, the investment. But I think any networking, any face-to-face networking, I'm always saying this, any face-to-face networking takes time. It's an investment. You can't expect to just rock up on day one and get things happening.
It's relationships.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we talk about trust, I always think I have to throw the ball to David as soon as we're talking about trust. It's like, over to David. Go on.
Yeah, well, trust is critical, certainly. I was sort of smiling because we mentioned the time element. But if you're running a physical shop and somebody comes in and buys something, the moment they pick it up and they come to pay you, then you don't say, well, hurry up, give me your money, come on, the door's that way, go on. You don't say that. You take your time to actually deal with them, because in that interaction you actually learn a lot of things. So really, businesses don't have a problem spending time, but the problem they have at the moment is that they don't actually quantify what that time gains them, because they haven't got the metrics in place. This is not a case of getting X number of likes or X number of followers. It's actually building sentiment and driving a conversation that will positively impact on your brand values, which will then impact on your brand equity, which will then gain you market share. It's actually quite a long, involved curve. And not many, hardly any businesses actually have the metrics in place for that kind of analysis in the social media sphere. I mean, they've got it for adverts, but not print adverts, but not social media just yet.
Right. Thank you, David, and thank you, Martin. Martin, one of the things we said with this Hangout is going to be a little bit of festive fun. So we encouraged jokes to be brought, and if you've got jokes in the if you're sitting watching and in the comment stream, do share your Christmas jokes. We might bring those in. Martin, do you have anything that you found online that's shareable? Not really?
Shareable. Do you know what? Search for Christmas jokes and Google the voice of the ones that Google gave me. Dubious. All right. So I've got two. Very bad. These are Christmas cracker jokes, everybody. Do you know what? I'm ashamed of these. Why was Santa's little helper depressed?
I don't know. Why was Santa's little helper depressed?
Don't drag it out any longer. Because he had low self-esteem. Okay.
That's not bad, actually.
Sticking with the same sort of theme, what do you call Santa's helpers?
Go on.
This is quite clever. Subordinate clauses.
That's very technical.
Yeah, do you know
It's
what?
very
Quite
good.
clever. Do you know what? But I've learned this over the years. Clever isn't the same as funny.
No, true.
Yeah, that was a clever. But the
No.
first one got a laugh. Do you know what?
Yeah,
I
I did like that first one.
Up the sleeve. Okay, there you go. I can bring out some more later in the show.
Okay, that's actually cool. I've actually brought some crackers here, so I need someone to pull it with me. So who's going to pull the cracker with me? Anyone? Kath? Okay. Kath, right, here you go. Oh, Kath, I won. Hang on a minute. Right, here's the toy. It's a, hang on, there. It's something to pick your nose with, I think.
No, I think I don't think that's what it is.
Oh well, that's what it looks like to me. Hang on, I've got a hat and I've got a joke here. Here's the joke from my cracker, which says, "What lies in a pram and wobbles?" This is really bad. This is really bad.
Oh, it's going to be cross between like a perambulator and a jelly perambulate or something terrible.
Not even that clever, Martin.
You what?
The jelly baby.
Jelly. Oh.
That's it. Rubbish. Okay. So, Amy Harrison.
Who's the funniest person in the room?
Exactly. We need some wit and repartee. Amy Harrison, over to you. Talk about, well, you can share your jokes, you can talk about content marketing, or you can just entertain us for the next 10 minutes or so. Whatever.
Yeah.
Get the banjo.
No, I was just then Googling some Christmas cracker jokes, and I found one, and then I realized as I said it that my accent would totally kill the punchline, because it is, what's furry and minty? A polar bear. Thanks for laughing, David. But I've got to be very careful with anything with O's in, because of like my whole accent means that I really lengthen them out, and lots of people can't understand what I'm saying. So
you do realise that some of us Brits struggle with other Brits' accents. I mean, for anybody watching from the rest of the world, we really do apologise.
But yeah, so content marketing, 2014, looking back, more businesses started to realize that, like Google Plus, it's not going away. So there were a few sort of early adopters that saw publishing content meant you got results, and then people got sick and tired of the word content marketing, and it became this faddy thing that was bandied around. And now businesses are taking it seriously. They're seeing that they do get results when they publish content, but now they're going to have to be a lot more strategic about it. So a lot more businesses are producing more content, but they're also having whole departments just dedicated to creating content, having a strategy around it, knowing what they're creating, when they're creating it, why, where it goes. So that's really nice to see, is that because it does work. And sort of there's been like a flurry of activities, like, yep, this is something which is a good thing for our business. Now we need to pin down exactly what we're doing, so we're not just sort of spinning our wheels and putting stuff out there and fingers crossed that it works and it does something. As part of that, one of the biggest sort of growth in mediums was video marketing. Lots more businesses using video marketing. I think about 74% of B2C marketers use video marketing, and that's really built momentum, which makes sense because it's a lot easier to create and publish and distribute videos than ever, and it's a great way of building that personality around your brand as well. We're seeing just a phenomenon of YouTube stars, video stars. So just recently in the UK, there's a video blogger, a girl called, I think her name's Zoella, and she does beauty blogging, and she released her first book that sold more copies in the first week of its release than any UK debut novelist. So there's a real there's a real trend of how video can build a connection, build that loyalty, and build huge audiences, and obviously businesses are trying to tap into that. And visual content as well. We're seeing that nice visuals, nice infographics, something sort of short and sharp and easy to digest is working really well. And it makes sense. There's a lot more sort of move towards micro content. You know, what can we sort of put out there that sort of is a real shortcut to the message that we want to get across, and easier to kind of get those initial click-throughs for more information. So nice visuals, you know, nice sort of short, snappy headlines to get people's attention. It's almost like this little pyramid of content. It's like you want to sort of just give them the tip of the iceberg and get them to click through, and where you can then continue to deliver more value. And personalized content as well. We are, as consumers, we expect more and we demand more from businesses that are creating content. A really simple example of this working was the Coca-Cola campaign for Share a Coke. So they released all these bottles that had different names on, and it was like Share a Coke with Peter or Share a Coke with Amy. And so such a simple concept, all these different names on bottles, but after year on year on year of declining sales, Coke managed to increase sales by, I think, about 2%. So it really shows you that power of personalized content, personalized recommendations, and I think that is something that's will definitely continue next year.
I think that they should go into the dental market. I think they should just like sneak in and start setting up like the solution to the problem. Surely that's kind of the lateral growth of their company now. No? Cynical a little bit, maybe?
That's like having Marlboro Red. That's like having Marlboro Red advertise nicotine patches.
That sort of thing. Or you know, let's not make it too dark, James. You know.
It could be fun though. I'd love to see them try it. It'd be wonderful.
Be very convenient just having everything under one roof, like your vices and then how to solve those vices. It would make you feel like, you know, not as bad.
Pay like $5 here and then 50 here.
Yeah.
And then eventually you go, hold on a second. Oh, we're over here. Maybe I shouldn't do that one. Maybe. I've got to say, I love listening to Amy because she's so professional. She prepared stuff and everything.
Yeah, she prepared stuff, Martin.
I always like the fact that if ever I do a hangout with Martin, he always comments on the fact that I look like I've brushed my hair, because I think Martin's the only one where sometimes he'll pop up and just be like, oh, have you got time to chat now? And it's like, well, I have, but I haven't got any makeup on. And so Martin's seen like the real me. And so now whenever we get together on these hangouts, he's like, bloody hell, you've done well.
Prepped up for this one.
Yeah, I'm really prepared. If my hair's brushed and I've got makeup on, then I've really made an effort.
Listen, I brushed my hair before I came in, I'll tell you.
It was wonderful.
Kath, you got something to say, I know.
Yeah, I just wanted to back up what Amy was saying, because the last couple of days I've been at the Google headquarters at a Google Partners event, and they were talking a lot about relationships and engagement and how important content marketing is. And one of the things they said that I thought was really interesting was that instead of going after phrases like running shoes, you know, people's search behavior is changing, so they're actually more interested in the purpose of the product. And so if you think about content marketing around the purpose of the pain point that your product or service solves and create content around that, it gives you a broader reach of marketing opportunities to kind of capture those people in. And particularly with things like remarketing, where you're kind of following people around. So instead of following people around with pictures of running shoes because they've searched and visited your site once, you actually have some content about, you know, how to run a marathon or how to stop your muscles cramping up, and that kind of content is what people are much more interested in, and they like your brand more because of it. So I thought it was really encouraging how positive Google were being about, you know, everything that we're doing. Basically, everything we're doing is absolutely spot on. So yeah, it was just nice to hear them say that, I think, and it just totally backs up what Amy was saying about the types of content that people can create.
Well, that's it. And then the other thing is that I think people are realizing now that before it was okay to just write content about the product. You know, that sort of worked because it was such, you know, things were a lot quieter. And now they're realizing that you can work backwards, and you think, okay, let's widen it from, we're not just approaching people in the buying stage, we're getting them at the research stage, we're getting at the evaluating supplier stage. And that's where you'll start to see, you know, some great results from your content marketing when you widen the net. It's like so many times, I don't know if this happened to you, I've bought a product, and then either within Facebook or wherever I'm searching, I'm now getting adverts for the exact product that I've bought. You know, but it's sort of, it's after the fact. I've already purchased that product. Whereas if it was, say, on the theme, if there was content around the theme of what I'd bought, I'm more likely to click through rather than them just focusing on the sale. And it's a way that you're missing out a lot if you've just got this narrow focus of, here's some information about my product, and you know, talk about the problems behind it, or what they want to, the problem they want to solve, or what it is that they want to achieve. You'll get so much better results from your content.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That awareness, top of the funnel kind of area is where the real opportunity is. I think because there's so much competition out there and so much expectation from searchers as to what kind of responses they want, and quickly. They want good quality content quickly that matches exactly what they're searching for.
Just want to bring David in on that, because we're talking about semantics and stuff like that. David, I mean, particularly what Amy was just saying about the sort of the remarketing that you get after the event. What about the, you know, this is what you could need next type of thing? Is semantics that possible or powerful yet within Google Search, for example, and Google AdWords?
Well, yeah, definitely, absolutely, and certainly. I mean, there are two elements here. Remarketing itself is fairly straightforward. It doesn't actually require deep semantic technology to happen. But where semantic search comes in, and it impacts directly in content marketing, is that essentially you're not writing up in order for a keyword to show up in search, because this is not how people search. They're actually looking to establish a kind of value in terms of what they find. Because it is highly unlikely that you're going to be the only retailer selling something in particular, or the only outlet for anything. Everything has been commodified. So essentially, whatever market, product, or service you're in, you have a lot of competitors. And the only way you can actually assure yourself of getting a real customer who will belong to you is by establishing a relationship with them, which means something of value to them. And that's where the content actually comes in. This is where you can't just blog or write about a product and its keywords, but you need to sort of broaden the funnel and write about the peripherals associated with it, because everything is part of a lifestyle choice or something specific which will impact on the way we do things. So it's a solution to a problem. And that's the way you really need to approach it. This is exactly the point which Kath made, which comes directly from Google. This is what Google has been saying all along as far as content marketing and search are concerned. And what we see is that with semantic search, all the content which you create now can actually be evaluated properly, and it allows your page and your brand to surface in search in relation to that kind of content, instead of just the very specifics of your market or job. And that's how you find the clients which you really need to find.
Yeah, in fact, I think Eric Enge in a post just the last week was talking about the differentiation of what Google will show in search results, and you can't just do what everyone else is doing. There needs to be differentiation, and the sense of, as you say, actually really answering the questions that people are asking and really digging down to that level. I mean, Amy, in terms of content marketing, should, you know, in terms of what people write about, should they be asking questions like, what do my customers ask me? What, you know, list, you know, maybe 50, 100 questions that they get regularly asked by their customers. Should they be writing about that type of thing?
Yeah, that is one place where I recommend, particularly for small businesses, to start, because the concept of content marketing can seem overwhelming. You know, I've got to plan this content. It's got to be engaging. It's got to be valuable. So a great place to start off with is the questions that your customers are asking, but also think about this in stages. So put yourself in the position of your customer when they and start right back. Like, do they even realize that there is a problem that solves? Because writing about potential risks of a problem that they may not know that they have can be really valuable. So sort of describing kind of symptoms. So one of the best examples of this that I heard was the idea that, you know, your computer's running a little bit slow, but you don't really think that it's too big of a deal. And then you see an article that says, you know, is your computer running slow? It could be, you know, it could be a symptom of a hard drive failure, which could lose all your work very quickly. So that's a way of getting to them even before they realize there's a problem that they need to solve. But from there, think of, okay, what questions do they have when they know they have a problem and they're trying to solve it? Then what questions do they have when they're trying to choose a supplier? How do they find a supplier? How do they evaluate that supplier for, you know, what's right for them? And then once they've got you know, once they've got an idea of working with someone or hiring something, think about what questions they have about working with you particularly. So how do you work with a copywriter? How do you get the best results with a copywriter? Should you hire a copywriter on retainer or per project basis? Very quickly, and I've done this in workshops, you can come up with literally, you know, tens, if not hundreds of simple questions. And the beauty of this is how simple it is. But it's got so much value in there because you're starting from a point of things your customer actually wants to know, and because you're an expert, it just happens to be very easy for you to answer. So you could set aside some time and write a bunch of quick blog posts, or create some audio files, you know, just talk about it, create a video, explain a tutorial, and pretty soon you could easily have a year's worth of top quality content, but is a way for you to lead into your product naturally, you know, by saying, if you want further, you know, if you want to take this further, or if you know, if this is the situation that you're in, you've got these questions, well, we also happen to have this, this, and this. And it's just basically following that natural progression of how your customer searches, chooses, and then buys.
So the lesson really is be strategic, not just random, you know, posts.
Yeah.
Actually think it through and plan it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that a lot of businesses were saying from last year, and what will continue on into next year, is more businesses are realizing they need a written down strategy. They need to know what they're posting, when they're posting, and how they're going to repurpose content, because it's basically they're thinking more like media companies and publishing companies. You know, a magazine like Cosmopolitan, it doesn't get to the end of the month and they think, what are we going to write about today? What articles are we going to cover? You know, things are planned well in advance, and businesses are starting to take seriously that that's what they're having to do. They've got to take their content production as seriously as a media company.
Sorry, Martin, any thoughts?
Yes. I didn't know if you're going to say. Peter told me in the side chat you can go next. You didn't. I was being polite. So let me tie a couple of things in, which come from what Amy was saying and what David was saying, and Kath. James is a bit quiet in a minute. We're gonna have a big finale. So one of the things that we've done using Google Plus communities is ask questions. People ask questions. Then every question that we answer, we create a blog post, pretty much, that is around that, and maybe a little bit more, may have an image or so on. But the idea being, we learn something or we tell them something, we make sure it's on the blog. Then we share it back onto Plus Your Business on this one, or I share it on my profile, because the community will engage upon it, because it's appropriate, because they are used to that sort of content. In other words, the network has been built around the nature of content that has been shared back in. So the communities are essentially generated. It's not all the time all the content, but quite often, or something will springboard. Like, for instance, custom URLs. I put one out today. Don't rush to get your custom URL. And I then go and create a little mini case study as to the reasons why, and then it starts to get amplified. Now, the amplification being plus one's comments and shares, and people, oh, well, that's useful. Because the network has been built, personalized search is the first port of call. So if people are looking for how to claim a custom URL and things like that, my intent, because of the content, is that this content can surface at, first of all, as a Google Plus post. So that's my face next to it, or the Plus Your Business icon next to it, but actually on this one, my face next to it. The next thing is, because of historical authority that's been built up over the time in relation to this particular subject matter, what I'm hoping, and the plan, and you do everything that you would do with a normal blog post and SEO, the intent is that it surfaces beyond personalized, and personalized is really a form of recommendation, because it's not necessarily me. David could share it, and it could be to. Did you share that one, David? No. But David could share it, and it could appear for his people that are following him, so he takes it in search and it becomes a recommendation. But it can go beyond that into personalized outside. Sorry, it can go into global, just on the settings on google.com, or it can go into incognito. And the point being that Google Plus gives us an opportunity to build relationships and to build community around our content that amplifies it into search. And I think this is where all of the bits need to be tied up. You can create the content wonderfully, have the answers that people are looking for, but also if you have people that are saying this is good content, we too know about this content, then the likelihood is it's going to appear in search. And I think that's the bit, is tying these things together for companies. And what I'm really saying is you can have the content, it can sit on the side. Unless anyone engages on it, then is anyone going to see it? So it needs to be tied into this building of the network. Now, I mentioned Bitcoin Doctor earlier. In one interview last year, he's telling businesses, build your networks. And we could see this year there was another change, which is, well, it's a change, but certainly more apparent this year, which is pages, the same as profiles. Those posts are appearing in Google search for personalized results. So you can start to see it's like invest the time to build these things, because you're influencing people's future decisions with the content that you put out.
Great, thank you, Martin. Amy, but just before we move away from you, do you have an accent-free joke you can share with us?
I'm not sure that I do. Everything's got too many vowels in it. And that's where I trip up. Let me see. They sort of give me away. What have we got? How do snowmen get around? You see, even snowmen. All right, I'll do this. I'll try as neutral as possible. How do snowmen get around?
I don't know. How do snowmen get around?
They ride an icicle.
So that's, see, snowmobile. Surely. They ride an icicle.
An icicle.
Very good.
Oh, do you know what?
Like that.
Yeah.
Like a bicycle, right?
I love the fact that David's got us just in case. I was alright. I was expecting. Do you know what? I'm going to need one.
That was a slow burner, that one.
Yeah.
David, we've already sort of dipped into search quite a lot and social quite a lot with all the things that have been bouncing around, but your thoughts in terms of where we've come from and going forward?
Well, what we've seen, and it's a trend which is going to continue, is that from the moment semantic search started becoming a thing, search itself and SEO stopped being a vertical which happened in a particular segment of your business, and it started diffusing itself right across everything that your business does. And there's a really good reason for that. Essentially, semantic search, and everything that we've covered up to now backs this up, deals with entities and identity. You know, if you need to differentiate yourself, well, you know, as a person, you would only say things in a certain way which nobody else can. And the same thing goes for a business. So it doesn't matter what you do, you are doing it in a very specific and very specifically unique way, and this is what you need to get across. And semantic search, search marketing, content marketing, branding, are all about creating a unique identity which your audience can actually connect with, and they can begin to establish that relationship which makes them realize why they're doing business with you. And this is where the success really lies. You know, everything which you need to do has to answer that question. Why should I do business with you and not anybody else? And if you can't adequately answer that in a way that's convincing enough for a relationship to be built upon it, and it can't be because of the price or because I'm convenient, then, you know, basically, you know, your business plan and your business marketing is not right. And that's what we're actually seeing. So essentially, semantic search and SEO, as traditionally we've understood them, are beginning now to inform pretty much everything that we do. You know, they're present in branding, they're present in content creation. You're asking yourself pretty much the same questions. You know, who am I? How do I get this across? What should I sound like? How to establish the authority which I need in my domain? in terms of the subject that you're actually involved with. How do I connect with my audience in a way that presents things in a trustworthy way? And when you begin to find the answer to these questions, then you begin to clarify your marketing plan and your branding plan and your search optimization plan and everything else that goes with it. So that's the stage which we're in, and this is where we get personalization and relationship building and very specific relevance in terms of everything that happens, including localization in search. And this is an ongoing trend, which is only going to get stronger and stronger, because essentially, whenever we use the web, we use it in a very direct way. We look for solutions to specific things. We do research and we want specific answers. We're not sort of dipping into a massive well of knowledge simply to dip in it. There's always an intent, which means that we are looking for an outcome which will satisfy that intent. And semantic search is geared up towards that, so it touches upon everything.
And in terms of business owners' marketing going forward, essentially what you're saying is we should be following pretty much some of the lines that Amy already painted for us in terms of content and creation, and actually going away from the old SEO practices of thinking about keywords. I mean, keywords obviously still have their place, but it's much more, it's much broader, it's much richer, much deeper. And the range of content we can write can all be of value at different points along a customer's journey.
Definitely, and I think, Amy brought up Zoella, who's a 19-year-old UK blogger, and she's 19. She's got about 1 million followers in Twitter, 1 million plus. She got a 2-book deal from Penguin, and within a week of publication, she sold 78,000 copies. Now, she's a brand, but she's a person, and although she has a brand value, she very much represents the new way of doing things, where you establish relationships and build a set of values which people can relate to, which is why she's so successful. And there are businesses which are a lot older than her, which are not as successful because they're doing things in a very traditional, very metronomic way, which compartmentalizes everything and expects sort of a push-button approach, which is not how we operate, really.
Okay, thanks, David. Martin, just coming to you in just a moment. Amy's you got a quick point on that?
Sorry, just to unmute myself. Yeah, just to back up what David was saying, is that brands are also, with their content, realizing that in order to get to a point where they can build a relationship, is that their content has to be entertaining. This is why a lot of brands are partnering with influential vloggers, people who are do lots of humorous Vine videos, because people expect more. They want more exciting content, and I think that's the other thing, is that brands will move more towards sort of entertainment marketing, because it's got such a huge pull, and there's a reason why people queue around the block to see the latest film or get the latest book. Brands are now thinking, how do we do that? How do we tell a better story? And they're sort of, I think you'll see them using more techniques from the popular video bloggers who've put a lot of personality in what they do and creating very entertaining content.
Okay.
Can I just add something to that? I mean, Amy's absolutely right in that brands will actually do that. We've seen that before, right? In the 80s, we were familiar with big banks hiring some popular actor to sit on a chair and talk to us, hoping that would personalize the bank and the actor's likability would sort of rub off on them, because we hate banks. and it did backfire. Eventually, we said, okay, you're paying him all that money to market to us, instead of putting all that money into improving the services which we expect to be improved and which made our life difficult. And I think a lot of brands which will leap on the bandwagon of what Amy said, and a lot of them will essentially, unless they've actually worked out their own set of values and they're in alignment with the vlogger or the entertainment figure that they're actually working with, they're going to have an equal sort of pushback from the online audience. Once we get past the novelty factor, they will appear patently forced and trying to, pull the wool over our eyes, and we'll react to that.
Definitely. Just one quick thing to say to that is it's like the evolution of native advertising. When brands started sponsoring content, and we just went, oh, it was like a body rejecting an organ because it was so false and insincere. And so I think that a lot of them will fall into the trap and see that that's like an easy button to push. Those are the ones that are going to get that bad reaction. But like you say, the ones that understand their values and learn more from the strategies to put in place, I think that's what they'll do well. But they have to want to do it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Martin, some thoughts?
Super quick, because we still haven't heard from James.
I know.
Real quick.
We've got you, James.
Content, absolutely, and Amy's fantastic. Community is something, and I'm going to give an example. Moleskin. Me, obsessed. Moleskin. All right. Moleskin are doing incredibly well on Google Plus, and they have a wonderful community, and they feature people from the community, and they are building and they're amplifying. We can do that. A small brand can do that. You don't have to have a big budget and to create stars and have videos and things. You just have to nurture the attention that you're getting and look after the people that are paying you that attention. And I think that the benefit for small business is that you can just begin and you can just feel your way. It takes time on Google+, but you can build it here. And the community will give you search results. Once you get into that mindset, you end up with this massive secondary benefit that it isn't just the engagement on the content there and then and going to the website and solving people's problems and supporting them in their decisions. You end up with this extra thing because it's Google. Moleskin, check out their page. I'm very impressed with what they're doing. Love the books, been using them for 15 years.
Great, thanks Martin, thanks David and Amy. James, you've been sitting there very quietly and patiently, and we want to just sort of shift gear in our plutonium-fueled hangout now and give James a place in terms of talking about tech and things like that. James, over to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, first and foremost, I'm never quiet on a hangout, ever. And so for me to be sitting here listening to you guys, and do you know what? It's a joy to not be doing what you and Kath are doing, and hosting, and panicking, and pulling everything from everywhere else. I've just sat here and listened in sheer joy of going, frickin' it, these guys know what they're talking about. I mean, how cool is that? Credit to you guys for this panel. Fantastic. I just want to bring on one small point, which I think is where the brands are going to struggle, because they all know they've got to get this personalized search. They all know that there's a big thing here with Google+. They all know all this sort of stuff. And I think when they look at the success of that young blogger, 19, who I now hear there's been a massive backlash against her, bless her, because she's said to have ghostwritten this book. I think the brands are looking at this and saying, well, hang on a minute, how can we emulate somebody like that? How can we do what she is doing? Realizing, oh Christ, hang on a second, we're a brand. Can we do that? Can we not? And I think it's going to be very clever companies, like perhaps Moleskin, who are starting to really bring up the people around them and realize that they are only as good as the sum of their component parts, which is every single member of their staff, and start to put every single one of them on a little bit of a sort of a pedestal to say, every single one of you is awesome, and every single one of you can do what this girl has done as long as you're passionate about the company and the product. And that, for me, aside from everything else, is the challenge for any slightly sort of mid to large company next year, to take advantage of stuff like what we're doing now. And I had to say that. I've been sitting here quietly going, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just say on Zoella, you're absolutely right. There was a little bit of a backlash because it came out that she had help from Penguin's editorial team. However, she has been entirely transparent about this. She actually did say she's only 19, it's a new thing for her. She did have help creating the book. The storyline and the characters are hers and her idea and development. And a couple of the editors who worked on the book have actually also been active on Twitter on the same subject, and said, they worked with her. The reaction of the public has said that, although she's had help, they're still going to buy the book because the storyline is good, and they also like the way she handled it, and it's been quite transparent. And again, this is very new. This is part of the new marketing, where things happen very upfront in a very human way. And if I did that and I said, this is my book, and somebody else had written it, you'd think, hey, wait a minute, David, you've been writing forever. But somebody who's 19 has just changed career, so to speak, from video to writing. evidently you will need some kind of assistance in at least structuring perhaps the storyline or creating the right kind of development curve of your characters. So again, that's pretty understandable, and I think it's quite revealing how the public has sort of seesawed around this. First they were against it, and then they're with her again, because they're realizing the struggles she had to go through.
But I also think the way she handled it was absolutely admirable. And it's, because she's grown up around the environment of being transparent and ultimately being herself, she's only done what she's used to be doing and handled it perfectly. So, who knows? Okay, tech. My God, right. I started this year sort of fundamentally being, an owner of a digital marketing firm. I end this year doing almost more work in the tech field, which was a bit of a side, a bit of a bit part for me. It's exploded. And to be perfectly frank, what's happened in 2014 has meant that the two worlds which I had originally set out to sort of keep very much apart, sort of technology speaker, evangelist, and blogger, and digital marketing company owner, I didn't think the two would ever meet and should meet. But what's happened in 2014, do you know what? They've collided, and they've collided in a very, very big way. So let me just bring this in for a second. This sort of shows you, right? I got this in the post today, right? This came in the post, and it's an augmented reality envelope. I mean, crying out loud. And look, for those of you who don't know what augmented reality is, right? Let's just see if you guys can. I don't know if you can see this. Let me bring it in a little bit closer. Can you see that appearing? I don't know if you can, maybe.
Yes.
Augmented reality is superimposing a digital image over your physical view. So, for example, using an iPad, using an iPhone, or whatever it might be. So all this sort of tech at the moment is absolutely colliding, because people are realizing that physical print and digital online, there's still a sort of lifespan in both of them. And as far as I'm concerned, in everything that we do, we've got to remember that actually people still like to feel things, people still like to touch things, and so how can we augment what we're looking at and what we're doing and what we're reading? And that's where augmented reality comes in. But before I go down this massive line, right, I'm going to give you guys a quiz. You've got to name me the film. Who remembers a film featuring a flying car? Anyone?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, that one.
Yes, that's one. Who remembers a film with a home nuclear fusion reactor?
Back to the Future.
Ah. Who remembers self-tying laces?
Back to the Future.
All Back to the Future. Look, this was in the Sunday Times, like last week, talking about this very Hangout. You're well up there. And basically, do you know the interesting thing for me in this? Is this. They were saying, look what Back to the Future promised us. Here you are, Peter. So, home nuclear fusion reactors, right? Self-tying laces, flying cars, hoverboards.
If you tell me it had Grumpy Cat in it now, I'll tell you, I was asleep at that bit.
No, that's what we got. We've got
hoverboards.
We have. There is one picture out there of a hoverboard.
And self-tying laces.
Well, that's one of the things they dispute. That's Velcro.
No. I mean, Nike brought out a pair of shoes which actually forms itself around your foot, doesn't it? And you sort of pump it up.
Well, what they're saying is that basically we haven't got an awful lot, except one of the things that we have got now, and they promised us in Back to the Future, was smartwatches. Which brings me on, right, I'm going to talk about wearable technology to start with. Wearable technology has had a massive boom in 2014. I mean, already the numbers are catastrophic in terms of what they predict is going to happen in the world of wearable technology. Now, wearable technology can be anything from smartwatches all the way through to, I mean, I've got a pair of Google Glass here. Martin, I think you're a Glass Explorer. Wearable tech is anything that you're going to be wearing. I mean, there's been a massive, I think one of the gifts this Christmas is Fitbands. There is a massive movement at the moment for the quantified self. So actually you understanding what is going in your body, out of your body, and understanding what's inside your body. And fit bands and pills that you're swallowing will be part of the quantified self. Healthcare could conceivably become contextual. David and I had a hangout about this quite a while back, if I remember, Dave. talking about the very nature of this and how I think the quantified self is going to be a very, very exciting area going into 2015, 2016. And actually the only issue that we have as a society for this quantified self, where literally you can go to the doctors and they can plug in something like going into a car showroom now for a service, and it just plugs it all in. And they'll be able to tell you your blood pressure and how you're doing at the moment, how much sleep you're getting, is actually the drug industry itself, especially the insurance industry out in America, where they're saying, well, actually, the quantified self is actually not going to be benefiting us at all. So that sort of things, you know what? It's here, it's ready, it's going. It's going to be a big thing next year. I started early on about talking how my worlds have collided this year. And that happened with the invention of, well, not the invention of, but the purchasing of. So I'm going to try and do the rest of this Hangout in a pair of Oculus Rift.
Oculus Rift, yeah.
I can't actually see anything I've written. Bit of a problem. So anyway, the point is that you know, Facebook purchased these guys this year, which is a massive move, a tremendously big move. And I woke up in the morning and I remember listening to the Today program, which I don't mind admitting here because it's on a Great British Hangout. And that was such a big thing. I remember sitting there in the morning thinking, what on earth have Facebook bought Oculus for? And if you then track it back and you realize that suddenly, hang on a second, you've got Google has got Google Glass, right? It's got we always talk about it being a complete and utter social layer. This links to everything they have. Facebook were getting a little bit worried because all they had was a social media platform. They had nothing else. They had nothing behind the scenes. They were hemorrhaging an audience. They were hemorrhaging an entire generation. You know, they're all going off to Snapchat and all this sort of stuff. So what did they do? They went and bought a virtual reality headset. They've both now got both hardware and software as platforms. I think it's fascinating in terms of what's going to happen next year. I've made a big prediction, which is, funny enough, I think Facebook are moving towards more of a layer sort of aspect that Google are. They need something behind them. One of the biggest things now, I think, with the whole Oculus Rift purchase is that Facebook could conceivably become the Netflix of the gaming world in the future. They could start licensing games, and because they're starting to push out all of these headsets for relatively cost-effective prices, suddenly there's a licensing agreement where people will be paying £1 a download, and suddenly they'll be using Facebook again, so they get the youngsters back in to start playing online gaming. Within 1 month of the deal, as I understand it, all the Facebook executives went to Hollywood. They sat down with all of the big directors and saying, look, start filming in 360-degree video. You've already got David Attenborough started doing virtual reality filming. You've already got, just on October the 26th, the first 360-degree film was released. So all of this stuff, it's, for me, Facebook in the future could become a gateway to gaming and virtual reality filming. I think that's quite exciting from Facebook's perspective. Google Plus, let's touch on these guys because we all love Google. For me, I was a massive detractor of Google Glass for an awful long time. I used to have to stand up in front of a whole load of people and say I didn't like it. I wasn't a big fan. I loved it as a gadget. I loved it as a thing. Do I love it as a consumer device? I'm not sure. You know, I don't mind looking like an idiot when I walk outside, but even I felt a little bit stupid walking around with this. I remember so distinctly on Leatherhead Station, right? I was standing on the railway platform with these on, and I remember walking past these people, and the guys just went, wow, look, he's got Google Glass on. And I remember walking through thinking, yeah, I know. And then hearing in the background, what a twat. And you know what? I was just like, yeah, fair enough, fair point. And then I heard the girl go, it's got no glasses in it. It's got no glass. So do you know what? That really hit it for me. I was just like, well, there you go. But look, so Google Glass this year for me, I started wearing it an awful lot. I started using it an awful lot. People love it. People are intrigued by it. And what they've done this year, what Google did, and it started, the stories came out of the early part of this year with a company called Magic Leap. And it started getting seed funding at the very start of this year, had 15 million chucked into it. It's got some pretty good co-founders. I think it's got Richard and Ronnie, I think their names are, who are pretty important from a robotics background as well as some other background from what I understand. But Google has just invested over $500 million in this relatively small, unknown company. And why? Because of these. What are they doing? They're going to, I mean, to quote some articles I've been reading, it's going to produce Google Glass on speed. They're going to start to be powered by Intel chips next year. And bringing this round to why I think this is so unbelievably important is that, for me, augmented reality, which is a superimposing on your, in fact, you can superimpose on this little screen a digital image over your physical view, and virtual reality, which is a total and utter immersion in a different world, I think are going to become partly integrated over the next sort of 5 to 10 years, where you, in theory, are going to have a choice as to which sort of reality that you want to be. So for me, AR and VR integrated together, we're going to have a choice. Integrated reality, selective reality, I don't know what it's going to be called, but the point is it's a very, very exciting position that we're going to be in, where we can select where we want to be. There you go. That's my overview.
That was awesome.
Well, yeah, I think I need to go lie down now, James.
Yeah, that was amazing. Seriously.
Yeah.
I just want to go on a hoverboard, man. It looks amazing. It looks
We all
really
do.
cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, the thing that frightens me is the whole idea of quantified self. I'm not sure I still like going to the doctors and lying about my alcohol intake and my exercise levels. I don't really want a computer saying, do you know what you ate today? Do you know that you had a 2-hour nap this afternoon and did no work? Do you know what your productivity levels are? I find that quite scary.
I
might borrow someone else's. I wonder if I could borrow someone else's reading to
Have you
plug
seen
in.
Gattaca? That's what it's going.
Yeah, exactly. There's a black market on that now.
Yeah.
You know.
There's one thing which does scare me. All right, we've just looked at 2014 and what I think for maybe the next 5-10 years. One thing does concern me. Some of us have got kids here. I'm about to take a photo. I'm having a photo shoot this week of my 2 boys and my wife sitting on the sofa in virtual reality headsets, right? And me sitting there reading the Sunday Times. Because I'm worried, right? I have downloaded and I've watched the first virtual reality film. It's fascinating. Fantastic. When you are... for so long, directors and producers have wanted us to watch what they are determining is the storyline. When you're in a VR environment, you are selecting what you want to see and how you want to see it and how you want to listen to it. Because arguably, and this is one of the big tricks of virtual reality, when you move your head, the sound changes. So suddenly you are central to a film, you are central to a story, and you are selecting where you want to go and how you want to go. What fear I have on this is how does this relate to human connections and human communication? At the moment we bemoan the fact that our kids are upstairs in the bedrooms on the 2nd or 3rd floor, playing games, and then we have to shout them 5 times to come downstairs and eat dinner. What's going to happen where then they are immersed in a totally different world?
We won't need any other human connections.
Well, I think. Well, there you go. Back to the future, right? But we are evolving along with it. So I think what's problematic for us. I mean, it's like Zoella, right? She's used to being transparent. For her to actually come out and say that she had help, it was not a strategic decision. It's the way she operates. And I think for us it's a problem because we are used to a different environment. But those growing up in that immersive environment, they'll find a way to deal with it, which will be natural to them. And we'll it's us who actually will have to devise strategies for survival in that way.
Yeah, actually, on a serious note, I mean, I know as when I was little and we used to play tons of computer games, but it was a very social activity because it was pre-internet, but you all went round to your friends' houses and you sat and you talked and you took it in turns to go on. And then with online gaming, you're still connecting with other people, and I think that need for connection will always be there. But like David says, it will just be probably in a way that we find alien, but is sort of natural to the next few generations.
But I'll tell you what, I'll bring this point back onto marketing here for a second, because I was asked, I was having a big chat the other day with an estate agent, and they were concerned about how, and again, you guys will know, it's fantastic talking to the Brits, how Rightmove and Zoopla basically command the online space for estate agents. And they're just like, how the hell can a regular common garden developer or estate agent compete in this online world at the moment? And we talked about semantics here as well. The semantic connections on the web are massive, but you're requiring a very small agent who perhaps have got an awful lot on their plate to do things, and how do they compete? And I was just saying, look, do you know what? There's an entirely new world out there. Back in 1995, when websites were starting out, who realistically got on the bandwagon very early on? Rightmove started, I think, 2001, and they absolutely storm it now. In my opinion, what every single company needs to start to understand is looking at marketing, innovation, marketing, tech, and marketing and technology, MIT, because ultimately that is where the future of everything is going. Take John Lewis. We've mentioned John Lewis already. They've already got John Lewis Labs, J-Labs. You've got Tesco Labs. The retail industry are already doing this. They're starting to look at using this stuff. Thomas Cook have just launched an interactive showroom using virtual reality. John Lewis have just agreed the fact that they're going to start having virtual reality labs in the Oxford Street branch to start putting furniture into shops so you can see what it looks like. We've got to look at innovation, marketing, and technology for the future, and that is how these companies will start to compete in an online world in the future. Exciting, very exciting.
That's your 3 I's, isn't it? Immersion, interaction, and
I always use it.
Innovation, interaction.
Yes, you've got to be interactive, innovative, and immersive. They're the 3 I's that I always use.
Yep.
Martin, you have a thought?
So, Google Local. I'm getting a little bit of flack at the minute with the European Commission and the recommendations and things like this. Let's think about this then. We're talking about estate agents. Look at Street View. Look at how far this has come. And think about virtual reality. And think about augmented reality when you're in the real world and you can see the overlay. We know this is the way it's going to go with estate agents, and you're going to be able to see the price of houses and what's in the market and all this sort of stuff. But when you've got virtual reality, you can take a tour. If you were, for instance, if you want to be Google and you want to be really disruptive, then giving the consumer the power to market their own houses based upon an individual searching in an area and you uploading your pictures in a 360-degree view on this photosphere type idea that you've taken in your lounge and somebody just walks in, there's so much that can happen that puts it back in the power of the individual and back in the control of the individual. And I think when you're starting to look at where it can go, it's like, we don't know, but there's going to be disruption.
Before we get to that stage, Martin, the T thing is going to come up again because it's all about trust. I mean, the reason we go to an estate agent is because as a company, they've invested too much in their presence to actually have a bad deal wreck everything. In order for us to deal with an individual, we actually have to be able to establish trust in a decentralized virtual digital world, which brings things down to identity, which brings things down to semantic search and semantic web, which comes down to content marketing and accountability and transparency. And pretty much everything we've been talking about is bits and pieces of the entire puzzle. So again, it's the way that things, I mean, James made the point that he had two distinct personalities, if you like, where he was doing one thing in one area and another thing in another, and he had to bring them together. And this is exactly how everything is coming together. I mean, very recently, Facebook launched, the ultimate walled garden, launched mobile semantic search, which is semantic in a very narrow sense of the word. But the point of it is that because they are predicated to surfacing quality content, if you are a quality content producer, i.e. marketer, now you can actually find huge traction in Facebook and they will back you and promote you, even if you don't like Facebook and haven't got a presence there. So suddenly their walled garden becomes very porous because of that. So, this is exactly the same environment that everything else is happening, where things are converging, but what gives value then in this sea of data is the uniqueness of the individual identity, which establishes presence, which then hopefully gets translated into a sense of trust in the connection.
James, you have something to say?
Yeah, just to back up what you said there about the big T there, David, which is this trust element. When talking about tech and marketing, I often start to say to people, look, as much as I'm talking about technology and digital and online marketing here, that there's one thing which fundamentally stays the same for me in all aspects of business, particularly, which is sales and revenue generation are as a result of human interaction. It's just the very nature of how we're reaching that human interaction, which is changing. And it's only at that point that people just go, yeah, okay, get it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's all human interaction. It's eye to eye. It's do I trust you? Do I like you? Will I buy from you? Absolutely. The very nature of that book written by the Powers, Know Me, Like Me, was it? Hang on. Know Me, Like Me, Follow Me. Know Me, Like Me, Follow Me, and I always put on the end buy from me because ultimately it is just about you. They've got to know you.
And so we come back to relationships, the key to engagement and to successful marketing. Guys, we've run over about 15 minutes already. Just want to give you brief time, if you haven't brought your Christmas joke yet, to dip in there and throw it into the stream. Anyone got a Christmas joke to finish off with?
Yeah, I've got an antisocial one. It says Santa. Well, it's a Christmas cracker. It says Santa has a right idea. He only visits people once a year.
I've got a Christmas cracker one here. What do angry mice send to each other in December? Christmas cards. She said it right. I should have always practiced. Always best.
I'm going to tell you my. It's not a Christmas one, but it's just because I love it so much. It's my. Well, when he was 3 years old, this is the one that he used to tell everybody. Didn't matter who it was, the neighbour, the teacher, random people in the street. He used to walk up to people and just say, "What goes ha ha bonk?" And then he'd literally just look at them and just go, "A man laughing his head off," and then he'd run off. It's my favourite joke of all time. Might not be funny to you guys. I love a little 3-year-old singing that and running off.
Very innocent. That's pretty good.
Kath, do you have one? Go on. I'll tell you what I've got. I've got the most useless Christmas cracker gift ever. Right? I'm going to show you this. I'm going to hold up to the camera if you can see that. But it's a 3-centimetre ruler. Now,
it's for the quantum world.
No, there's a joke there.
There is.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, we've already been there with that one, Martin. Thank you.
Oh dear.
Well, David, Amy, Martin, James, and Kath, it's been, well, I think I definitely need to go in for a lie down, but thank you so much for all your interactions and actions and comments and thoughts and jokes. And there's so much to think about. It's definitely going to be one to watch on the replay. So I think we need to wrap it up now. I was going to come to you and give you one more chance, but I think we'll wrap it up now. Just want to say thank you for those that have been watching. Thanks to our guests. And this has been the Great British Hangout.